Yeah, Josh, appreciate you jumping on. I've been following the content Mike and I have on your LinkedIn for a while now and learning a lot of cool things. Um, and then aside from that, uh, I know I mentioned to you we were having some issues with the API, but we have made a lot of progress, like trying to figure out other components of like personalization. Like we've had some success using um ChatGPT to get some cool emails out. And then I saw the update you posted about Claude, so we were talking about that a bit. Um, but ultimately, the place where we're stuck is with this. I think it's called like it keeps timing out essentially. So the usage limit. Yeah, we're hitting a usage limit on Clay, and our OpenAI is working fine. So when I reached out to you, you suggested using OpenRouter, which
Mhm.
we started setting up, and I had it like using credits on that platform, but I can't get the results to show up as anything like legible that I can take action on. I just get the 200s inside that column, inside the column where the open router is set up to do contact research. Let me know if you're following. I know this is kind of spotty.
No, no, I am. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's kind of where we're stuck. I spent a lot of time trying to rely on AI just to kind of show it what I'm working on, and it doesn't seem to have a good, at least, the what the window I'm using doesn't have a good sense of like how Clay works. It was telling me to do things that didn't really exist, and Clay would point me to OpenAI, and OpenAI kind of points me to Clay, and then as far as OpenRouter, I didn't reach out to their support, but we're just trying to. It seems like it's going to work. We're just trying to get that live, and aren't sure what to do next.
Okay. Well, let's get it done. Do you want to pull up the play table that I have it open yours on a separate screen, but do you want to pull up just guide me to the tables where you started it and like let's
Yes,
get it put into place.
sounds good. You want me to share over here? Let's
Yeah,
see.
if you don't mind.
So Clay. So I have this table I created called OpenRouter test,
Okay.
and I made this research column, and so there we have this we have the key that we created here, and then this JSON code, which I assume that's what this is.
Yeah, I think part of what we'll do here though is like one of the things we can do with OpenRouter that just makes this so much easier is we inject the prompt from a different column.
Okay.
So that way the column will dynamically update from any other variables that you have in the column table. So when you run this, like, well, you know what? I've got the table open. Let me see what you're getting. So you're just not getting a response. Let me see what you're calling.
Yeah, it's almost like it when I did a test to see if I was actually pulling something, and it seemed like I wasn't getting a response.
Yeah. So it looks like, let me just pull up. Let me open my Clay instance. I'm just going to copy the API setup because it looks like maybe the API is not set up the way mine is, which might be the issue. And then I could just save you a little. I'll probably need your API key, but other than that, I can save you a little work here. So give me a second here.
And so we were trying to get the open router set up for the research, and then also the email writing as well, which I wasn't able to get to that part just because the
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to help you with the research because if you think about the research models are Claygen, and those are going to have your API embeds to Google search. The only
Hmm.
one that you might be able to use for research is uh, this is kind of where it gets really technical, but the only models that have come out that have web research built into them as a standalone model is OpenAI's version of web research. And that
Okay.
just came out maybe a month and a half ago. And I can show you on the open router menus. But the other one is I don't think Claude has released web search via API. But what Claygen is taking any of those models in that dropdown and combining it with Google's API, but like you can't get that externally. So that will be a limitation of this. You would only be able to use OpenRouter really more for copy. Does that make sense? Not research.
Okay, it does. So as far as research, are we just stuck using Clay credits then? Because it seems like
No, you can still use Claygen. You just have to choose your API key with the model. So we can talk through that too. But you don't have to use Clay credits. You could still use your API key. It's just you can't call it through OpenRouter because Clay proprietarily built in like the Google API to do it. So I know it's a little complicated, but I'll show you in just a second. Let me grab this. So let me make a. Is it okay if I mess with this table?
yeah.
Okay. I'm going to create a different column. So you called OpenRouter directly, right?
Or attempted.
Are you using Appify for scraping?
We are.
Okay.
This is just kind of a test that I threw together that isn't connected to Appify, but
So I think it would be much cleaner to use Appify to do this.
okay.
I'm going to do that because it's already in there.
Now if we were taking existing data that we uploaded, we just imported a CSV, could we still use the columns that we're building out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see. So in Appify, can you go into Appify and subscribe to the OpenRouter actor?
I actually don't have access to that. Ted, I know you're on the go. Do you have a login?
I do, but I don't know if I could get it to you while I'm in the car.
Okay.
I've got it saved in one password. I don't know if you're able to get into that. I can probably give me a second. I'll pull over and pull it up and text it to you.
Okay.
Well, let me
So
share my
once
screen so you
okay,
can
yeah.
kind of see what I'm doing. So when you have to subscribe, otherwise when I go to choose the Appify actor, see how it's only showing the Apollo one, but it'll pop up OpenRouter. Here is the actor. When Ted sends that to you, it's just called OpenRouter.
Okay.
So you're going to want to subscribe to that. And then I'm going to do this now, but you basically cut and paste into Clay. This is the API call here. And you'll have to replace this is my API key. So we'll have to, we can do this in a minute when you get in. And then, so when you're in OpenRouter, I'm sure you know this, but I'll just show you a little trick here. So the models that you want to use, you just have to copy this. This is the exact model name. Were you aware of
Oh,
that?
okay, okay. I wasn't aware.
Makes it really easy. So if you want to be like Claude 3.7, you just copy this and paste it here where it says model, and it will work every time. That makes
Oh,
sense. So
okay.
that's how you can test different models, if that makes sense.
It does.
And then and Ted, cut me off if you need to. I'm just killing time.
I just texted you the username password for Appify One.
Okay.
It's my email, and then I put the password in there.
Okay, I'm logging in. Okay, I'm logged into Appify.
So type in type in OpenRouter into the actors page.
Okay.
And there's only one, I believe. It's called OpenRouter, LLM for Claude, all that. It's in the actor store.
Okay, I have to get to the actor. Oh, go to store. Okay.
Yeah, it's in the store.
Okay, got it.
And then just you want to subscribe to it first.
Okay.
And then
So it's rent actor. It's $8.99, $8 a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then once you do that, you see on the input screen where it's asking for your API key.
Yes.
You need to grab that from OpenRouter.
Okay.
So you have to log into OpenRouter and get your API key.
Okay, I got my key. Okay, have my key. I'm pasting it inside the store here. Looks like I'm being blocked for some reason. Edit. Okay. Okay, that's updated.
Okay, cool. So you see where it says JSON instead of manual above the word API key?
Yes.
Click that JSON button.
Okay.
So this is true for any actor in Appify. If you want the API code, you for whatever input you're putting in, then you just click that JSON button, and you're literally going to copy this in the bot. So why don't you share your screen instead of me sharing mine, and I'll walk you through this. Because if you can do this for this one, this is the same way you can call any Appify actor with API. So just it's nice to know how to do anyway. We'll just use this one as an example.
Okay.
Perfect. So go back to the manual, and then let's choose a model to test. So do you have OpenRouter open on your other screen?
I do.
So go to models, and there's all the models. And remember, these usually get published the day they come out. So it's a great testing ground if you ever want to test new models for copy. You just substitute in and out the model. But just go ahead and type in Claude 3.7 or whatever one you want to list. I actually found the one that does web search, so let's do that one first, actually. So
Oh, okay. What is it?
type in just OpenAI. Okay, and you're gonna have to scroll for a while, but you're looking for 4.0 mini search preview. Just scroll down. That's probably like 10 or 15 deep. There, that's 4 point. Keep going. There, that 4.0. Copy. See where the little clipboard is?
Yes.
To the
Or
right
which
of.
one?
Let's do 4.0 mini because that's cheaper. So
Okay.
copy that clipboard. Now go back into Appify. And then paste that where it says model. And then under response format, what are those options?
JSON object.
Yeah, just go ahead and choose JSON object. Now go back to the JSON instead of manual. There you go. So copy that API call. That's your body. Okay, and then go to Clay. See the column I created called research?
Mm-hmm.
Edit that. All right, and so actually, you know what? I forgot we're going to use an app factor. So close that out. All right. Add enrichment. Appify. Run Appify actor. And then under Appify actor, there should now be a drop down for OpenRouter. Yep, click that. Paste that body in that input data column. All right, so see how I copied all your API keys? You don't have to do any of that. Now scroll down. So if you ever want to test other models, now all you have to do, we may not even need the JSON input, but for now, all you have to do is replace where it says model with that clipboard from any other model, and you can test any other model now. So let's save this. Okay, and then do one more thing, edit it again. I don't know if we put the input in. Scroll down, let me look at the body code again. No, we didn't. So let's go back to Appify. Manual. And then hit under messages, hit add. And just put, tell me about this website. Just anything, that's fine.
Is this a prompt?
Yeah, this is the prompt. That's good. And then now go back to that JSON. There you go. So now copy and paste that again. Copy and paste that again into the body of Clay.
Okay.
So if you're ever building out these JSON bodies for this Appify actor, you just choose, you got to make sure you get all the inputs you want first, and then it'll convert it to JSON. So you're good there. The other thing I want to show you, and I think this speaks to some of the issues you're running into before, scroll down a little bit to the very, very bottom of this before you save it.
Mm-hmm.
May not be in Appify. Okay, so just something, we'll think about that in a minute, but hit save. Okay, so before that Appify actor, insert a column. Text is fine.
Insert here. Okay.
Yeah, just a text column is fine. Call it prompt. Now edit that column again.
Oh, here?
Yeah, and right there, edit column. And then here you're going to put like your default prompt. So let's just say, for the sake of just as an example, tell me more about the email host, except instead of saying typing email host, put / email host. There it is. Okay, so you see how I'm injecting a dynamic field?
Mm-hmm.
So hit save. So what that's going to do is fill every column from now on dynamically based off the other column. So you can write that prompt to be anything you want. I'm just giving you an example. Does that make sense? So you can be like, tell me about any other data you have in this column, like first name, last name, company name, etc. That's how you write the prompt to feed to this, and then it'll update for every value, every row. Do you follow me, Juan?
Yes.
Okay.
So example, I could say it could be the person's name, and they could tell me about them, or the company.
Yeah, and every row would be different because you basically put the prompt in the header in the description, and it's going to change it for every single row.
Okay.
Now go into Appify and edit that column.
Oh, the column here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in Clay. I'm sorry. I said in Appify. Yeah. So edit the column in Clay.
Mm-hmm.
Now scroll down to where it says message in the body. You'll have to scroll down with the little cursor thing. There you go. And so where it says tell me about this website, replace that with the column prompt. So
with the column prompt, right?
Yeah. So / No, keep going. Try again. Erase that. So yeah, keep going. Backspacing.
Backspace everything. Okay.
Yeah, get rid of all that except the 2 parentheses. Now just in there, put / prompt.
Oh,
There it is,
okay.
very, very, very bottom. So do you see how now you're injecting your prompt into this actor? So
Yes.
whatever you put in that prompt, every row will be different depending on what you write in the prompt, right? Tell me about your prompt could be tell me about this website, etc. And now
Mhm.
save it and let's just test it. Let's see if it works.
Okay. All right,
Is this
save. So
working?
I'll click to run.
Uh-huh. So let's see what is. Let's click on the word error and let's see what the error said. Integration failed to run. The actor did not succeed. Run, you failed. Okay, so maybe the JSON output. So let's go into it again and edit it. And then scroll down to the very bottom. Keep going. Yeah, and just take out that whole from parenthesis response format, take that whole thing out.
This line right here.
Yeah, delete it or hit backspace. And then one more backspace, maybe a few more. So you get to the comma. There you go. And erase that comma.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Erase
Erase.
that lat. Yeah. Now save it. Let's try it again. There you go. Okay. So click the found one result. Click on results. And then so there's your response. So there's your response. So you can add that as a response.
This
So
would be response.
like the content can be an output. Just create a new column from that. Click there, add as column, and hit create column. And then let's see what else we have. Scroll down.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So we have
So
content.
scroll lower. That's really it. Now, here's why I like Appify. So number one, you should not run into any rate limit issues with these models. And then go OpenRouter itself. Like not in Appify, but just the program OpenRouter.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. And go to see where the person is in the upper right hand corner with no face, and then
Yeah.
there's So go to activity. Okay, so it gives you real time reporting on every run that you made, and you know exactly how much everything costs. It will capture. So see, we just ran GPT-4o mini search through an Appify scraper. 6 input tokens, 638 output tokens. That costs like 3 cents, right? So
Nice. And you filter. Okay.
so here's what you want to evaluate, and this is like being fiscally prudent, right? Now, obviously, we were not going to need to scrape that. That prompt said like scrape Google, basically is what it said, right? So every prompt and every output is going to be a different cost, but you need to evaluate does GPT-4. So GPT-4o mini search is basically Claygen, right? And that's why I did this one as a test because it does call the web. Like if you looked at that reply, it gave you a deep dive of Google because that's the
Mhm.
prompt that we put in there. Now you're never going to do that kind of prompt. I just don't think that this web search capability through GPT-4o mini is as good as Claygen, number one, and it's historically more expensive, but it does work and you won't be rate limited. So you need to evaluate like when you build your prompt the way you want to, run 5 of them, come and look at the cost on them and compare that to the cost of your clay credits and then make the decision because that's where before you do something 100,000 times, right? Can you accomplish the same thing for 0.3 cents that cost you 3 cents, right? That makes sense.
It does. Oh, with that said, it does seem like click credits are they're significantly expensive, aren't they? Like compared
They
to
are, yeah, they average 3 cents a click credit. So let's replicate this experiment with a different scenario. Okay, so just remember that. Go back to your clay table. I'm teaching you this process, but at the same time, I'm teaching you. You now can call OpenRouter any model with that one actor that we just built. And you just substitute the model in the input. That makes sense.
It does.
But go to Claygen. All right, so go after the run Appify actor, maybe after content. Let's put it at the very end. Go to add a column, add enrich, or you can just hit use AI is actually the fastest way. See it down there? Yeah, use AI. The third one. One more lower.
Oh, use AI, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now under use cases, we leave it on web research Claygen. Under model, so see the next box where it says model there? Okay, choose the drop down and go all the way down to 4.1 nano. Okay, and see the options we were just given is we could use your API key, or if you click where it says WAN GPT-3 key, there's also the option to use Clay credits, right? I'm going to tell you it's going to be much cheaper to use your API key than a Clay credit, but we're going to do the math regardless. Okay, so leave it on WAN GPT-3 key. So to your first question, this is not costing you any Clay credits. This is all API cost.
Right, but the issue was that we had it set up like this, but then we were running into not limits inside our OpenAI account, but limits somehow through Clay, where we weren't able to run, like, let's say we had a sheet of 10,000 rows. We weren't.
I'm going to don't worry. I'm going to teach you how to fix that too.
Okay.
So just for sake of argument, where it says prompt, put /prompt. So we can use the exact same prompt. There you go. Click that, hit save, and run it. Now we might get a different response because this is technically different tech, right? In one, we're using OpenAI's web search remodel. In this, we're using OpenAI's model combined with Claygen, which is Google's API. So just so you know, Claygen is Google's API combined with whatever model you choose. And then the one we were using before is web research directly from OpenAI. So it's literally the difference between Googling something and OpenAI. Okay.
Gotcha.
So you may get different results. The one benefit I like about Claygen, just to speak to, is that Claygen clearly cites its sources. And you can feel pretty confident that the results it gives you don't hallucinate. The OpenAI one's only been out for 4 or 5 weeks. It doesn't really cite much of its sources, whereas Claygen's really defined to cite its sources. So, and this is a very broad question that we're asking it through the prompt. So, like, tell me more about Google. That's what we're asking it. So that's why it's taking a little long. But it, like, so if you click, you can clearly tell, like, it says different things, but it's pretty close, right? Like, if you look at even it. Now, the one thing I like about Claygen, so first of all, the cost is dramatically different. Look at the cost of this, 0.00033. So it's like 1/100th of the cost to do it this way. And that's why you got to compare and contrast, right? But the other thing under steps taken, if you see steps taken, if you click that little arrow down there, you can see where it sourced this information from. I told you I went to Google, I found the following results. I looked at Encyclopedia Britannica or Britannica.com. I looked at about Google, and this is where it got its information. So I would tell you, like, it's possible to just use web search without using Claygen. I think this is a more refined technology, and it's exponentially more cost effective. If you want to do super duper research, then you get out of like these mini models and you use 4.0 and 4.1 without the mini. And they get more expensive. And then if you want to do like super robust research, like have it go to the websites and read, 4K documents that are embedded in PDFs, then you start to use like the Argonne model and some of Clay's built model. But For most of, I'm thinking what you're trying to do with copywriting and research, you're going to be fine with this prompt. Well, you change the prompt to be whatever you want, but this approach, and it's going to cost you like 1/1000th of a penny to do it.
Okay, so you're feeling like the Claygen models will meet our needs, and it would really be it would be the ChatGPT 4.1 Nano still.
Yeah, and that's a new model. It only came out a couple weeks ago, but it's better than 4.0 mini and it's much cheaper. So it's sometimes OpenAI releases models that are like big screen TVs. They just got better and cheaper. And this is
Right.
one of those models.
Okay.
But you can play around, try different models, try different, experiment with different models, right? And try to get, that uh, capability to, it's all about balancing input with cost and output, right?
Yeah.
So if you look at your personalized insights one, the one that's over 2 to the 3 to the left there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you click on that, right, and you're using 4.1 nano there, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
that one was kind of giving you everything you wanted, then I think you're in a pretty good place. You can stick with 4.1 nano.
Okay. Yeah, it was good. There was I think I also had compared Claude as well though, and that looked great. I think and they're pretty comparable. It seemed
Makes
cost
sense.
wise. So why were we getting limited?
I don't know. It's a good question. So, I mean, part of it is, and I need to figure out where this is. I had it a minute ago and I can't find it. So were you trying to run them like tell me how you were running the tables? Because like, did you just hit run and let them all run at the same time?
Yeah, so
Show me what you were doing.
have a prompt table here. This general prompt master. So I was here inside one of these tables, and when I attempted to run these, I attempted to run this with just the 4.1 nano, and it was giving me an error saying that you're hitting rate limits. I think I might have emailed you the exact copy.
Okay.
Um,
So, but click into where it says 4.1 nano, click there.
mhm.
It's because you were using Clay's account.
Well, I moved back to Clay in order to get it in order to just like make progress. So if I go to actually the settings, you can see and I go to connections and I attempt to do my this if I test this right now, this wasn't working before. Maybe it'll work today.
Okay.
Let's
So
see.
yeah, and
Okay,
this gets into like API architecture, but just a couple things, right? Like, so what level are you on your GPT key? Are you level, what tier are
so
you
now
on?
we're tier 3 now.
Okay. So I would say a couple things, right? First, if you use Clay credits, you're using one big key that anybody who uses Clay credits uses. So sometimes the Clay credit one does rate limit because there's just so many people using it. Your own GPT-3 key, you should be fine if you're at tier 3,
Well,
but
that's the
I
thing was
wouldn't,
we didn't use the Clay managed accounts until we ran into issues using our own key. That's why we were
okay.
confused.
Yeah, and so what happens is if you try to run 7,000 at a time, even tier 3 is not enough. You're gonna have to be at tier 5 before you don't run into rate limit issues. So a couple things, like what I would do, number one is there's a couple ways around this, right? You can make that same API call and set it up how we set the research one up. You know how we set it up in Appify just a few
Yes.
minutes ago?
Mm-hmm.
And that will likely solve the issue because OpenRouter doesn't have, historically you don't ever run into rate limit issues with OpenRouter. The other option that only exists with OpenRouter is like go back to your table. And this is like the one foolproof way to not have errors. So just pull that one table up.
Or did you mean the one that we
The one we had before with OpenRouter. I think OpenRouter test is what it was called.
Yep.
So open up, I think the one we built called Research, open that up.
This one right here.
Yeah, and hit edit column. Scroll to the very bottom. Very bottom. See where it says custom rate limit?
Ah, yeah, okay.
Okay, so now leave that open for a minute. Go to OpenRouter, the software.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to find it before I tell you what it is. How is it in the description? And you might let me just put this is where it gets really technical. So give me just a second. Let me log into my account here. Give me a second. A little bit of work, but once you know this, it's worth. You only have to figure this out once. So I just need to get my. I have a corporate account on OpenAI, and so like I have to log in like a password key and everything.
Okay.
There, just a second. I don't know if you ever do like Microsoft Authenticator or anything like that, but that's what this does.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get into the settings. And pricing, I'm looking for tier. Usage tiers. Okay, almost there. And okay. Let me, this will make it text you this link. I'm going to put it in the chat for you. You're going to be an expert by the end of the day on all this.
I believe it.
So if you click that link I just sent you, it should take you, yeah, perfect. So whatever model you're using, so like for example, let's pick which one we were using. We were using
0.1 nano.
Nano. So find that on there.
That's another thing. I think it was calling itself a different name. Wasn't it also call itself like Turbo or something?
No, it's up there. It's go higher. It's under reasoning models. There it is.
Which one?
I'm sorry. It's under flagship chat model. Where I just clicked it. Now I lost it. Keep going. It's under cost optimized model. There you go. 4.1 nano.
Okay.
Click that one. So scroll down. And you're looking for the rate limits. Okay. So do you see the rate limits here?
Yes, I do.
You're on tier 3. So you can do 5,000 per minute. That's what the RPM stands for. 5,000 per minute.
Is that 5,000 rows?
It's 5,000 inputs per minute, and then the T is like total tokens per minute. So it's kind of hard to classify it, but you basically take that 5,000. Now remember that changes for every model. So honey, I saw you take a screenshot. It changes for every model. So every
Okay.
model has a different rate limit. That's why you have to have that URL I gave you.
Gotcha.
But then you go into back to your Clay table and
under the limits.
yeah, this is where it goes. So you want to put 5,000 there. And then you need to calculate how many milliseconds are in a minute.
Okay.
So, I know it's stupid, but so like 5,000 milliseconds in a minute, and it may be. I need to double check.
60,000 milliseconds.
Yeah, and I may let me just double check what I'm thinking here. I've done this in a while. Rates per long contacts. Let me ask it. What is request per minute, request per day, tokens per minute, request per minute? Okay. So you can do 5,000 requests per minute. So sometimes I don't pretend like I know everything. I just ask ChatGPT. Right? So give me a second. So if my RPM is 5,000, then how many? What's my request limit in millis? Sorry, let me ask again. Good news is this is worth the effort once you get it right. So you're going to put 5,000, and then you're going to put 60,000 in the duration.
Okay.
So all I did just to show you how to calculate that, let me share my screen here. I asked ChatGPT. I said my RPM is 5,000, and then I asked it like how many can I do, and I literally put a screenshot of Clay in there, and so then it answered the question. So like that's the cheating way I came up with the answer. But what will happen now in that Clay table is that it's never going to. So like in your Clay table here, and I guess I'll let you share again one, but it's never going to error out because it'll stack the calls and the API calls so that they just don't occur only that frequently. So if you have 10,000 rows in there, it's going to run it, but it's only going to make so many calls instead of having all 7,000 or 3,000 call it at the same time. And that'll stop it from erroring out. The problem is this doesn't exist in Claygen or the OpenAI module. So you can only do this with pure API calls or like this Appify one. That request limit button doesn't exist in the normal Claygen.
It doesn't exist in Claygen, and it doesn't exist. That's what was throwing me off, because I remember reading your message and seeing evidence that you could do that from ChatGPT as well, but not. Yeah, so it doesn't exist in Claygen, and then it also doesn't exist for the
Probably
Appify.
doesn't exist because they can't feed the logic to Google's API, which is part of Claygen. Does that make sense?
So this is only for when you say pure API. It's like when I have my API key for OpenAI direct
Yeah.
connection.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Which that's another way you can experiment, right? The problem
Yeah.
is you can't do reefs. I mean, you can't do the wet. You could all. There's so many ways to skin this cat, but in theory, you could call OpenAI's API and get that one that we just did with web research, but we know it's 100 times more expensive than Claygen. So because we're going to use Claygen, we lose this capability. So it's a lot of give and take, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I'm kind of surprised. Like part of it is like once I had my own API key, um, like I didn't see once I got above tier 3, I didn't see a lot of errors. And maybe one of the things you want to think about when you build these tables is do you build them conditionally to run off the results of other tables, like other results?
Yes.
So how you like I know there's only one row in here, but let's just say there's 5,000 rows. What I always do when I build my tables is like I only inject like 10 values to start and I get the clay table set up the way I want, right? So I'm going to do research, I'm going to write copy, right? I'm going to do all the things that require it to take action, like verify emails, million verifier, bounce span. I'm going to then have it do research and I'm going to have it write copy. Let's just say those 4 things, right? That's 4 separate enrichments or API calls, right? So what if you set those up to be conditional? So obviously if something doesn't pass email verification, then you're not going to do research, right? Because you're not sending it to them anyway. Why waste the money? If
Mm,
so, what I try to do is build the tables, drop 10 rows in there, and test everything, make sure everything's running, and then I add all the rows. Like, so let's just say I'm pulling in an Appify actor with something I scraped from Apollo, right? What it does is it causes that all like as it gets populated to start running, right? So you're not running all the research prompts at the same time. You're not running all the copy prompts at the same time, right? And that's one thing you definitely want to try to do, not run them one row at a time because you're basically telling it every time make 3,000 API calls all at the same time. But
mm,
this should help. So that helps a lot because it's basically like staggering out the workload amongst different uh, enrichments. But the ultimate way to solve this problem is to use OpenRouter because you should avoid any rate limits. And then secondarily, you can tell it to only run this many at a time through that what we
okay.
just did. It's just complicated. It's really like this is not what the average person would understand, if that makes sense. One.
So is the open router is kind of like my backup plan if I'm still having issues essentially. Is
Yeah,
that
I mean the drop here's why I like OpenRouter. Like number one, they source their pricing of their models. So if you go into OpenRouter
mm-hmm.
again and like the software itself and go back to where it just says model, the top there, and like find one of the OpenAI models. It doesn't matter which one, yeah, and click in there. So see where this says providers.
Yes.
Scroll down. Like so this one they're only using OpenAI directly, but they keep
Mm,
track of things like throughput and latency and speed, and they monitor their platform because this is all they do. All they do is that they're an intermediary between these routers. But some of these models they'll be sourced from multiple places. And like and it seems like unfathomable, but we just talked about how to get OpenAIs from Claygen. We just talked about how to get it from OpenRouter, how to get it directly, right? So they
right.
kind of do the same thing, and they're very big on uptime and performance. And so that helps because like when you're calling it directly through Clay, like you're relying on Clay to be responsible for that, right? Whereas this is all these guys do. sometimes their pricing, it's never more expensive than what it is directly from OpenAI, but sometimes it is cheaper. Sometimes it is faster, right? And then I'd
Mm,
say finally, the reason I love it is because it tracks every single API call and its cost. And so I can do 100 of something and go, okay, what's this going to cost me at scale if I run 10,000 of these? Well, on average, it's 2 to 3 cents. So that's going to cost me that times 10,000. It's very hard to see that when you're doing some of that in Clay because all you're getting is input and output tokens, right? So
that makes sense. So it seems like a way better. I like having that visibility and being able to have the different models on hand like that. The one thing I'm thinking is without that custom rate control, whether I'd run into issues, but I guess you're saying just to break up the workload essentially, right?
yeah, I mean, build your Clay tables intentionally where you're not running all 7,000 API calls at the same time. That definitely helps. Smaller Clay tables, the better, right? I don't think OpenRouter really helps you solve the research because Claygen seems to be much cheaper from that perspective.
Okay.
But even if you're saying, okay, I'm going to use Claygen just for research with my API call, no Clay credits, just the API call, like you have one's key. But then I'm going to write copy with OpenRouter. Then you know what I mean? At least you're getting benefits where you can. Maybe you can't like there's not a really good solution to do research yet. I think it'll come. I think Claude will release embedded API searches and stuff like that. But I mean, Claygen's been used 1 billion times, so it's pretty
And
strong.
it's just better because it has that Google connection. Is that right?
Yeah, it is because they just that's their landmark product. I'm going to tell
Right.
you, of everything in Clay, that is their number one thing. And I think they hit the countdown, but last week or whatever, they were doing a countdown to being run 1 billion times. Like that's a lot, you know? So they've got a lot of architecture behind it. It had, obviously you can put in anywhere between I think 7 and 10 different models into Claygen that all have. And I mean, when we use it, which we use it a lot, we just use our own API keys. But you're starting to feel like the pain of understanding rate limits and models because it's like if you ever use Claude like in the actual interface, you use it, you type in like 4 or 5 complex things in a row, and it's like, oh, you can't use this for 20 more minutes, right? This is the same concept. It's just that at the API level. So
Gotcha. Okay, so we'll need to sounds like we'll need to experiment a bit, but I do feel like we have some at least yeah, like I see some clear paths forward and so I appreciate
yeah,
that.
trial and error. And again, what is always so let me just give you my infinite wisdom when it comes to this running 50,000 rows at a time. Sometimes it's okay to have a couple thousand error out and just filter on those, like has
Oh, that
error,
I have a
and
screenshot
rerun
on
them.
my desk that says question for Josh where I was going to ask you about that. So just real quick with our last minute here
No, go for it. Take your time. You got time.
I ran into a real issue where and I think you even talked about this with me where there's some people that their messaging like didn't populate for various reasons. There was like errors and then they still made it into an instantly campaign, so then like you're sending them like a blank email. So the way around that, only run if, and then I'm assuming like you enter something here so that message, if they haven't met the run conditions, then they don't carry over into instantly. Is that right?
Always. Yeah.
Okay.
Now I can tell you there's ways to get it out of the instantly campaign, but it takes some API work. Like you can make an API call to remove leads from campaigns that
How
you
did you
accidentally.
how did you do that? Because I was trying
Uh,
to do that.
yeah, let me see. Let me see if I have one saved
We
for
don't
you.
have to break it down right now, but just is it using Instantly's native AI stuff
Yeah,
there? Okay,
it is. Yeah,
that's
so
helpful.
it is. So let me see if let me move over to my table. I think I have them saved. Uh,
Because I'm just assuming there are bound to be instances where I'm going to have uploaded people that I need to remove or make changes to, and they don't make it easy without that.
No, they do not. You're absolutely right. Okay. Send to yours here. I'm just going to save it on that OpenRouter table for you.
Okay.
And then you can just save it as a template. We're good. So here, I'll share my screen so you can see what I'm doing. Do you have a table actually that has, what's the one you were showing me that actually you added?
General prompt master inside prompt tables folder.
Okay. And this one, do you remember which table it was?
Any one of those is fine.
Oh, there's one. Okay. I want to just put it here. So it's the use API. You have to, it's directly HTTP API. And then you have to put, here's the API code. Let me go back to my Clay. Okay, and then it's a post. Post, okay, and then let me save. So you're gonna have to put your API key here.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna show you in just a second where you get the campaign ID. So if you go and you go add enrichment instantly, and you say find leads, and this will just, your instantly is already connected, right? I'm gonna show you why you need this here. It'll make sense in a minute. So I'm gonna run this one. I'm gonna assume it's gonna come back. It's gonna be an instantly.
I
Okay,
did.
so
That makes sense because I tried to do the other part and I didn't have the ID of the lead.
yeah, so you have to do a lookup to find the campaign ID, which is right here.
Gotcha.
So you add that as a column. And then from there, you input the campaign ID here. Here it says campaign ID.
Yep.
And now if you were to add your API key and stuff, then it would just remove that. So this comes in handy if you screw up a campaign. Instead of having to go through instantly, because you can just run this. You can obviously just filter down to the one. So what will commonly happen is like the model hallucinates and you have a whole bunch of them that say hi first name, right?
Yep.
So you come in here and you write a formula, that says, find hi first name, right? Okay. You run that formula and then you just filter by the ones that are yes, right? So now you're left with, instead of 2,600, you got 50 that meet that criteria. You run, you find the leads on those 50 so you can get the campaign ID number. And then you just run all 50 of those and remove them and it'll take them right out of the campaign.
Awesome.
Just be careful with this. The one caution, because I've done it, make sure you turn this auto update off.
Oh yeah, I always turn it. Yeah.
It will remove all of them if you're not careful, which it's fine if you're building the campaign. It's not cool if you're in the middle of the campaign.
Okay.
So I'll label this for you. Remove from instantly. And then the trick is what you do with anytime you have to figure something out like this for the first time, I always save them as templates. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
Now you'll never have to figure this out again, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for filling in the gaps there because it was very frustrating to know 40% of the solution for that. So I was just trying to experiment, and that's a game changer because we can also update as well with that, right? Like a different.
Yeah, I mean the nice thing is with AI and stuff, you could actually, and I'll just tell you the trick on how I'll just give you my last trick of the day here. You just go to Instantly's page, find the URL that has all the API calls on it, and drop that URL into like Claude or GPT, and it will help you write any of these API calls, right? Like you no longer have to really try to figure this stuff out anymore. You just feed the URL with all the API instructions to either Claude or OpenAI and be like, hey, write the code for this, and then it's like, I need the campaign ID. Well, how do I get the campaign? Because before, if Clay didn't have that lookup that we just put in there, you would have to make an API call to get the campaign ID. Then you would have to get it, but Clay built the lookup for us, so it made it a little bit easier.
Right. Okay. Sounds good, Josh. Thanks for the
All
help
right.
today.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks, Josh.